World, and we have Florence Villemena with us here on the set. Hi, Flo.
Jean.
Lots of focus in the press today on the election in Algeria tomorrow.
That's right. Starting off in Algeria, let's take a look at some papers there. El Watan says that Algeria is really holding its breath, even though the results are pretty much a foregone conclusion. It seems like President Abdelaziz Bouteflika is most probably going to be re-elected for a fourth term, but you can see a photo here of his main rival, Ali Benfis. He's already anticipating this population, but has vowed to hold peaceful protests if there's any voting fraud. And he's actually warned any potential fraudsters to actually avoid voting fraud, because he says he has an armada of 60,000 observers out there that are going to be making sure there's no voting fraud. But Abdelaziz Bouteflika has, he's drawing a lot of criticism for running for this fourth term, despite his poor health and promises that he wouldn't run. I pulled out a cartoon from Liberté, where you can see Bouteflika is headed for a fourth term in a wheelchair with a heavy police escort there. And there's a similar feeling in a cartoon in the International New York Times today, where you can see Bouteflika behind his desk, appearing to actually be asleep, surrounded by all sorts of medical staff, and somebody in the front there saying, call it a caretaker government, quite literally here.
Algeria and France obviously have a long history, and the press here in France has also been focusing on this election.
That's right. Le Figaro says that the result has been in a lockdown well in advance, by being kept by men in the shadows, advisors to Bouteflika, who are really pulling the strings. And chief among them is actually Bouteflika's brother, Saïd Bouteflika, and you can see a photo of him here. Le Figaro calls him the mysterious and cumbersome brother, and has a very interesting portrait of him. Over the years, he's earned the nickname Mr. Commission, and Bouteflika's rivals accuse him of being at the head of a political financial mafia that's really running the country.
All right, let's stay in France with the right-leaning daily Le Figaro, which is lashing out again against French President François Hollande.
That's right. Le Figaro suspends reality today, has a kind of fictional rewriting of history. Imagine what would happen if the 2012 presidential race were held today, so 2 years after Hollande's presidency. Well, Le Figaro says Hollande wouldn't actually make it to the second round. This is according to a poll in today's paper. In this fictional parallel universe, the second round would be between Nicolas Sarkozy and the leader of the far-right party, Marine Le Pen. So what's the point of this surreal trip back to the future? It's not very clear, but Le Figaro does take this opportunity to warn the president against listening to voices within the Socialist Party that are calling him back, to come back to the left, because François Hollande has drawn some criticism for turning his back on his socialist values, and a lot of people within the party are saying it's high time he came back.
Flo, let's go now to Italy, where there was some interesting news that came out of that country yesterday. Former Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi being sentenced to a year of community service.
That's right. It's all over the Italian press. I pulled out an article from La Stampa. So a court in Milan has decided that Berlusconi will serve a year-long sentence for tax fraud through part-time community service in a home for elderly people. So 4 hours a week. You can see a photo of this elderly home in The Guardian. It's called La Fondazione Sagra Famiglia. It's near Milan. The Guardian actually points out that Berlusconi isn't the only politician, celebrity sentenced to community service. They have a little list of other people, like the R&B singer Chris Brown, the model Naomi Campbell, singer Boy George. But as you can imagine, a lot of the press is having a field day about this. A lot of papers are saying, for once Berlusconi, who's 77 years old, is going to be hanging out with people his own age.
It'll be interesting to see how much bunga bunga he gets up to over there. All right, finally, Flo, a word for marathon lovers.
That's right. This is in Slate, the French version. It points out that these days the trend isn't to run a marathon in London or Paris or Tokyo. Well, it's to run a marathon in Pyongyang in North Korea. This year, for the very first time, it opened the marathon to foreign athletes. So this took place on Sunday, April 13th. 225 foreign runners from 27 countries took part in the event. They said it was a really unique experience. They particularly enjoyed the enthusiasm of the 42,000 people that cheered them on at the finishing line at Kim Il-sung stadium. So if you're interested in a unique running experience, well, you can sign up for next year's marathon. It'll cost you a couple $1,000s, but it's sure to be unique.
All right, thank you for that, Florence Villeminot, for that look at today's press. And speaking of sports and sports news today, Carlo Ancelotti has been explaining why Cristiano Ronaldo will miss tonight's Copa del Rey